Hello. hello. Let me see. Yeah, we're live. We're live on Facebook and on Instagram. I'm just quickly going to share the link of our chat, our training today in the Facebook group, just to make sure that everyone receives us. And then we're going to start. So today we're going to speak about 10 fears that stop your professional growth. For some of you that were here last week, we spoke about the root problem of your imposter syndrome, so procrastination. And this week I'm going to speak about the fears that belong to this imposter syndrome and actually are the cause of procrastination for many. Now, I think it's worth to mention that all of this is a preparation for the webinar that I'm going to host next week on the 3rd of November at 5 p.m. CEST, which is called Defeat Your Yoga Teacher Imposter Syndrome. And the reason that I'm hosting this webinar is because in our community, I'm seeing a lot of teachers that have very big plans. They've got a really nice idea of where they want to go with their yoga teaching career, but they feel stuck. And they feel stuck because they might have unrealistic plans, unrealistic goals. It might be because they feel that it's too much, they don't really know where to start, and there are too many things to think about and consider. It also might be a lack of self-doubt, too much self-doubt, a lack of confidence, so self-doubt in general. And this could be doubt about the skills, the experience, their abilities. It could be that you compare yourself to other people. So all of what I'm doing this week and what I did last week is in preparation for the webinar, Defeat Your Yoga Teacher Imposter Syndrome. Because I really think that if you have the tools and you know a little bit more about how this works and what effect this really has for yourself, so in your personal life, but definitely in your professional life, it is actually something that you can overcome. And I see Agustina is here. Hi, how are you doing? And Shu is here. Clay. Yoga para vos. How are you all doing? Really nice to see you. So that's a little bit of an introduction about what we're going to speak about today. If you're interested in this webinar, by the way, on Facebook I've already included the link, and on Instagram you can reserve your spot via the link in my bio. It's going to be on Zoom. If you can't be there live, the recording will be sent to your email, so you don't have to miss out on it. And I've got a really exciting announcement after the webinar, which most of you might already expect, because we're working on the membership and it's going to be open next week as well. So stay tuned for all that. But today, 10 fears that stop your professional growth. Any ideas what these could be? Any ideas that these could be from the top of your head when you hear this? What is a type of fear that stops your professional growth? What's a type of fear that stops your professional growth? So if you were here with me last week, you know that imposter syndrome and procrastination come in all sorts. They all have different shapes, different sizes. It is because we are all different people and we have all our different ideas of how things work, ideas of how things should be, our own belief system, our own fears. And that's why for everyone, this imposter syndrome and procrastination looks a little bit different. Now, you might have noticed that for some people, it can be a short-term thing. It might be something that just happens at a stage in their life for specific reasons. For other people, it's long-term. It's something that they always do. It's something that always happens. And I really don't like this word always, but this is the way people see it or describe it as when they speak about. So you could even say it's chronic. Now, You also know the root problem of procrastination usually occurs because of self-doubt, lack of confidence, or lack of clarity. And that whatever it is that you keep postponing, understanding your personal root problem, so your personal idea of what the root problem is of your procrastination, and finding the tools or guidance to tackle this root problem can help to overcome all these barriers and finally become productive and actually have an idea of how to do things and what to do to make things work to actually achieve your goals and to achieve your yoga teacher dreams, your career dreams. So it's important to know that although this is true in only specific cases, it's important to know that procrastination sometimes signals that you're not ready. And this can be a little bit disappointing or intimidating, but when you're not ready, it simply means that your goals are unrealistic, that you haven't got an idea of how to do this in a smaller capacity maybe, or in a more realistic way. For that reason, you will first often have to obtain more skills and more experience, or simply, and this can be a little bit disappointing as well, simply lower your expectations. Allow yourself to be where you are today and work from there. Everything will come with time and practice. And wherever you are is where you're meant to be, as they say in yoga, but wherever you are is also for a reason. You know that sometimes we want to have a lot of success in one day, but very often we are not ready to handle all the things that come with success. And we prepare ourselves little by little to actually become ready to handling all of the things that come with a lot of success, because there's a lot of steps in between. And this is why also very often when people have a lot of success in one go, it's very overwhelming and they don't really know how to handle it. So in the webinar next week, we'll have a look at how to create a step-by-step plan and set these milestones for yourself, so that when you're not ready, it doesn't feel as overwhelming, and all of the self-doubt and the feelings of not being prepared will go away, and you actually work at your own rhythm, at your own pace to achieve the goals that you want, but maybe it's spread over a longer period of time. It's just to be honest and being fair with yourself and be realistic about what you can do realistically with your time. So, I've got a question. I just wanted to mention that, but I do want to speak about the fears right now. And I want to speak a little bit about procrastination in general and how this works, or how we approach it in our society these days. It is a term, imposter syndrome, procrastination is a term, are terms that are used a lot. And I actually think they are overused because we don't fully understand what these things mean. So my question is, what would you do if you have a chronic headache, a long-term headache, or a consistent headache? What would you do? What would you do if you have a chronic headache, so a headache that stays there, it's consistent, it never leaves you, it's always there? What would you do? Because I think maybe the first few days, or the first time, you might take a paracetamol, or you might take some kind of medicine to make it less or to help it reduce. But what if it's chronic, it doesn't go away, it's there every day? What would you do? Or what would you recommend your students if they came to you with lower back issues? What would you do or what would you like to hear from your health practitioner if you tell them that you feel depressed? What will you want from them? So in our fast-paced society, many of us are trained, and many of us treat as well, to treat our problems and they treat the issues, all the inconvenient circumstances, with short-term solutions. So short-term solutions are quick, they help us alleviate stress, they help us feel less bad or less troubled by something. It will help us to deal with stress better or with the feelings of being uncomfortable. Basically, it's just a solution, a short-term solution that helps you right now and only for this period. Maybe it's today, maybe it helps us tomorrow and the day after as well, but it's a short term. So the worst thing is that the problem we're trying to solve with these short-term solutions may come back or they may stay, but they are just ignored for a period of time. And that causes for us to keep making the same mistakes because they are gone for a period of time. That short-term solution has worked and we can use it again and again and again and again, but we don't treat the real problem. So if you have a chronic headache, keep taking paracetamol is not going to make it any better in the future. If your student has a lower back issue and you just avoid using the lower back during their practice, it's not going to help them strengthen the lower back or actually work on the issues that they have. Then if you feel depressed and you're taking antidepressant medicines or you're going to a retreat to feel a little bit better about yourself, you're not looking at the problem of what is actually wrong. And this is the same with procrastination. We're doing something, we're postponing something, we find a solution for what we want to solve right now, but it stays consistent, it stays there. It either becomes chronic or it will just stay there and keeps following us. It's like a problem that keeps haunting us. So I actually hope that the answer to my question at the very start, what would you do if you have a chronic headache, was find the cause of the problem, find the root problem, the problem that we spoke about last week. If you weren't here for the training last week, you can still find that on Instagram and on Facebook. You just go through the videos of Instagram TV or through the videos on the Facebook page and you can listen to that. It's all about the root problem. So to treat the symptoms of your procrastination, you want to have a look at the deeper reason why. Because understanding what you procrastinate, what fears you have, what obstacles are holding you back, will help you carve out a path to be more productive. However, when you do understand and you know what these things are, you know your root problem, you know your fears, you know what the reasons are that you're holding yourself back for, this is the first part. This is the first thing, this is the first key of the things that you need to know. But after, you actually have to find the courage to put in the effort needed for you to work on this part, and especially on this part of your personal development. So knowing, understanding is part number one, and then actually after is the hard part, because we have to take action and work on this. We have to work on our personal development. And this is something that you can train. This really is something that you can do, but you have to be consistent. So tools such as mindfulness, meditation, your yoga practice, all of these things help you to train, making an effort, becoming more determined, staying consistent, staying motivated. And all of this, all of the tools that we're going to use to overcome procrastination, to overcome your imposter syndrome, I'm going to help you with in the webinar. So for those that have joined later, you didn't hear about the webinar, it's next week on the 3rd of November, and it's called Defeat Your Yoga Teacher Imposter Syndrome. And like I said before, if you can't be there live, you can join still, and the recording of the webinar will be sent to your email. Okay, so we can't treat a big problem with a short-term solution. And understanding all the reasons why your underlying fears, the obstacles that you really have, are only part number one. After that, it's taking action, creating a plan. And this we speak about in the webinar. The other thing that is important here is a very common thought among procrastinators and people that consider themselves to suffer from imposter syndrome is a very strong belief that you're in this alone, that no one can help you, and that no one really understands you, and that you will all have to figure it out by yourself. And even worse, that you will figure it out by yourself one day in the future, again, postponing the problem. So the problem is that when you have these beliefs, no one actually can help you. And you can't either help yourself. When you open up yourself to others and start to learn that you really aren't the only one that faces this difficulty, your mind and your emotions will become less resistant to understanding your problem and also less resistant to taking action. So this also means that you will start to see similarities, the similarities that you have with other people, and that you actually open yourself up to finding the new tools and solutions that work for you. It also helps you to allow yourself to receive support, and especially receive the support that you need, but also offer support to other people in return. Because remember that together, doing things together, facing our problems together, you are so much stronger than you are alone. It will help you to get a new perspective, but it also will help you to feel supported, to feel heard, to feel seen, and to work on this more actively and with more positivity. So again, in the webinar next week, I will take you through an exercise to analyze your thoughts and the feelings and sensations that come up when you think about procrastinating your tasks, the things that you find most difficult and the things that you find most challenging or really just can't oversee doing. And this exercise specifically is going to help you also understand what you need to find support, but most of all, the thing that we're going to speak about today, understanding the fears of your reason why you procrastinate, or the reason why you experience imposter syndrome. Hello everyone, I see that many of you have joined in the meantime. I see Anna is here, Mike is here, Bea, let me see, Rose, Hale, String, how are you all doing? Chris is here, really nice seeing all of you. I had a little bit blocked, I all found it. I see Anna, you said find a doctor. Find a doctor in terms of the paracetamol, I think. Absolutely, you would definitely go to the doctor. You want to know why you've got this and what you can do about it. Alright, so the fears, all of the fears that we experience. Now, it's important to know that some of these fears will be intertwined. They are related or they have something in common. Some fears might come up one day and disappear. And some days you will have a combination of fears. Sometimes you have a specific fear in a specific period or stage in your life, and sometimes it's a fear that suddenly happens. So it really, really depends on where you encounter yourself and what is happening in your life right now, what it is that you have to face. But I also do dare to say that we often experience a fear that we have experienced in our childhood. I'm not a psychologist, even though I find these things very interesting. But if you really want to get to the depth of your own fear, I would recommend seeking help from a professional. I'm just introducing yourself to the types of fears that you might experience and that could be the reason of your procrastination and imposter syndrome. So, as I mentioned already, thoughts and reasons are linked to an emotion. And this emotion is very likely based on a type of fear. Almost all fears are about future scenarios, future situations, but not necessarily the thing or the scenario itself. So it's not very often the scenario or the situation that you fear, but the emotion. It's the fear of the change of an emotional state. So it's the fear of the change of your emotional state, right? So it's not necessarily the change it will bring in your life in terms of, oh, we're going to live completely different now. It's more of an emotional state, your feelings around it, that you fear. So one of my mindfulness teachers, Jay Shetty, he's got his own podcast and you might know him, he's pretty famous. He has some really amazing resources on this and explains that there are 10 types of fears. Any ideas what these fears might be? What fears do you think are very common or maybe even are the fears that you experience? Let me see. Are any of the fears that you experience the underlying fears of your imposter syndrome and procrastination? Any ideas? I have spoken about them before, I think, but today we're going into a little bit more depth and more. There's more of them. So fear number 1, change. I spoke about it just now. So the fear number 1 is change, having to adjust to new circumstances or a new situation, a new scenario, moving somewhere else, getting to know new people, fear of change, a lot of changes and transformation in your life. Getting out of your comfort zone, really, just trying to change things up and leaving behind that what feels comfortable. Number 2 is a fear of loneliness. Feeling alone, feeling left out, feeling isolated, maybe feeling friendless, having no one to speak to, having no one to go to, fear of being all by yourself, or also believing that you have to do this all by yourself, or believing that no one can help you because you have to figure it out by yourself. Fear number 3 is a fear of failure, and this is a very common one. Not living up to your own expectations or not living up to other people's expectations. So fear of not doing it right, fear of not having any success, fear of being that's another fear I want to say. That's another fear. So fear of not living up to your own expectations or your abilities, or fear of not living up to other people's expectations. Number 4 is the fear of rejection. Not feeling accepted, not feeling respected. So accepted or respected. The fear of not being equal as someone else. Or maybe fearing that you are less than someone else, that you're not worth the same. Fear that no one wants to hang out with you, or no one wants to go to your classes. Fear that no one wants to actually pay for your classes. All fear of being rejected. Number 5 is a fear of uncertainty. So feeling ungrounded, feeling unstable, feeling out of balance, the fear of the unknown, fear of not knowing. That's also all belongs to uncertainty. Then fear of excuse me, not sorry, not sure what sound that was. So then number 5, let me see, is it 5? No, fear number 6, something bad happening. So it could be feeling worried, feeling anxious, maybe feeling disturbed or bothered, maybe concerned, All of these, actually, if you want to get into your adjectives, start writing these down, because these are all really good adjectives for emotions and feelings. They're not very pleasant, most of them, but they're really good to know, especially to include in your yoga classes. Going a little bit off topic here, but I just realized. So this is number 6, feeling fear of something bad happening. Then number 7, fear of getting judged or being judged. So there is the fear of being observed, fear of people having to look at you, or be insecure because people look at you. Just fear of being judged on your abilities, on your skills, on your knowledge, and also feeling as if it's not good enough, or again, not up to someone's expectations. Then fear of getting hurt, number 8, fear of getting hurt. And this one can be emotionally, but it can also be physically. There's a lot of things that are combined here or go together. So fear of getting hurt emotionally or physically. Number 9 is fear of inadequacy. So not feeling good enough, not feeling or thinking, believing that you're not clever enough or smart enough. It could also be not knowledgeable enough. So inadequacy, not having the skills, the knowledge, or maybe the experience. And number 10, the loss of freedom. Might be a little bit unusual, because it's linked to the fear of success, and I'm going to speak about that in a moment. So this is fear of change again, fear of being fixed in one place or fixed in a relationship, whether it's with friends, maybe a business partner, with students, or romantically. There's a lot of relationships that you can feel fixed in. It's also fear of being permanent in there. And like I said, success. I'm going to speak about that in a moment. Now, the most prominent reason, hello Enrique and Carolina, how are you all doing? Nice to see you. So the most prominent reason why we experience fear is because we imagine how it would be, or how it would feel to go through this emotional change. So it really is not the situation that we fear, but the emotion that comes with the situation. Okay, so it's really important, I think, to understand why we fear things and what this means for your procrastination and your imposter syndrome. For example, let me give you an example of the emotions that we fear and why we think it's the situation that we fear. Maybe as a yoga teacher, your biggest fear is forgetting your sequence or forgetting the words of your sequence. Maybe the sequence as a whole, the asanas, but maybe it's also the words of your sequence. You might fear in this case that people will think that you are a fool, that you're unexperienced, that you don't know what you're doing, and that people never come back to your classes. Yeah, so maybe you're fearing what people think of you, how they will perceive you. In that case, do you really fear forgetting your script? Is that your fear? Because that's the start of it. The biggest fear is forgetting my sequence or my script. But really what your fear is that people perceive you in a way that you wouldn't like, or that they have a judgment, they've got an opinion, or they've got some kind of attitude towards you. So do you really fear forgetting your script? I dare to say it's probably the fear of failure and fear of rejection. In this case, fear of failure and fear of rejection. Hi Tanya, hi Caroline, how are you doing everyone? Really nice to see so many of you today. So it's really the fear of rejection or the fear of failure, and maybe even the fear of judgment, so people judging you. So this means your fear is an imagined emotion due to an imagined situation. So it's an emotion that you think you're going to have because you imagined or you projected a situation that could maybe one day happen. Instead, to overcome the fear of forgetting your sequence or the words of your sequence, you will have to turn this fear into an opportunity. So, in the case of this example, if I forget my sequence, I will have to use my creativity and find a new approach. Or, if I forget my sequence, people might notice, but I can improvise and maybe make a joke and laugh about it. Or if I forget, I have my sequence under my mat and I can quickly lift my mat to look at it. Or if I forget, I will just get into the asana and see what naturally feels good after. So where do I naturally feel like I can go from here? You don't always have to stick to your specific sequence because that's what you wrote down. There's a lot of room for creativity, improvisation, and really making mistakes is not the worst thing. Sometimes they're actually really necessary. And that's another chat. I'm going to speak about that another day, why it's necessary to make mistakes. Alright, so just analyze for yourself. What are your fears? What really is your biggest fear? And is it really this fear? Or is it an emotion or a sensation, a feeling that you get, when you fear this? Alright, so as a side note, I just want to say as well, your students are absorbed in the practice and they often don't notice your mistakes or don't notice that you forget your script or your sequence. So, and I've never heard anyone complaining about this. So if there's a fear that you actually have, try and analyze this for yourself and transform the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that you have and turn it into an opportunity. So now let's have a look at the most common phase of procrastination, so imposter syndrome phase. And think of the ones that are applicable to you. Number one is a fear of failure. It won't work, it won't sell, it won't be a success, it will be a disaster, no one is gonna buy, no one is gonna invest. Fear of failure. Is this one that you experience? And if so, how can you turn this fear into an opportunity? Number two, the fear of expectations. So that maybe your expectations are too high. Sometimes expectations are too low. Think about this for yourself. Most of the time it is not enough or it's too much, and it's people's opinions. Very afraid of what people will think or how they perceive it. Then number three, fear of abilities. I don't have the skills, or I don't have the knowledge, or I don't have the right experience or the amount of experience. Is this something that you fear? And if so, how can you turn this into an opportunity? Then, fear of regret. And I didn't actually mention this in the 10 fears because I do think in yoga, and especially as yoga teachers with imposter syndrome, this is kind of its own fear. But really, this is a fear in which we ponder, so we think about and we worry and we become really bothered about the what if scenarios. What if I have, what if I had, or what if I hadn't, or what if I haven't? Yeah, so it's all the what if thoughts, all the what if scenarios and situations that come to our mind. What are your what ifs? And how can you turn these into an opportunity? And with what if scenarios, I really like to think about it in the other way around. So, what if I don't have the skills? Is a negative what if. But what if you can turn this into a positive what if? What if I don't have the skills? Well, what if I put in the effort, or what if I actually take up the studies to obtain these skills? What can I do to obtain the things that I'm missing? Okay, so think about the opportunities instead of the actual fears and the emotions. Number 5, fear of success. I told you about it earlier and I want to speak about it a little bit more, because fear of success is often confused with the fear of failure. However, when you experience a fear of success, it is not because you're not capable, but it's linked to the fear of change when you do achieve something. And you might actually think, why would I be fearful of success? Or why would I be fearful of achieving something big or achieving something in general? It could be that you fear this because you fear losing people, or you fear encouraging others to have even higher expectations of you. Because if you have a lot of success, other people might have more or higher expectations of you the next time or from now on. And that might be something that you fear. It could also be just social and emotional pressure. So the pressure of uncomfortable amount of attention, a lot of attention that comes with it. There's a lot of different things that come with this fear of success, and how this really plays a part in the way that we procrastinate things, and why this allows the imposter syndrome to keep taking over. So if any of these things are the fears that you experience, think about how you can turn them into opportunities. How you can turn these negative thought patterns into more positive thought patterns, or at least positive thoughts of action, so things that you can do about it. Then, in the webinar next week on the 3rd of November, I'm going to speak about actually creating a step-by-step plan and finding the tools to not only understand and know the fears and the obstacles that you experience, but also actually find a way to overcome all of these obstacles and the tools, so that you can finally say goodbye, kiss goodbye to your imposter syndrome, and actually work on the things that you want to achieve. And for most of you here, because most of you here are yoga teachers, so this means actually achieving your yoga teacher career or your dream goals, the things that you want to do with your career as a yoga teacher. Alright, so let's summarize quickly, because there's a lot of things that I shared today and it is in preparation for the webinar. So if you are interested in the webinar, you haven't been here from the start, or you have missed last week's chat as well, I do recommend watching it, because it really helps you to understand what we're going to work on next week. Last week we spoke about the root problem of procrastination and imposter syndrome. This week we spoke about 10 fears that could be part of your root problem, but often are linked to the way that we procrastinate. And just to summarize today's chat, is that we spoke about understanding and knowing why you postpone and procrastinate is only one part. After that, you will have to find the tools to actually overcome this and actively work on the things that you have to overcome to finally make your yoga teacher dreams and your goals reality. Alright, so that's part number 1, and the webinar we're doing part number 2. So your chronic headache isn't cured by paracetamol every day. If you have a consistent long-term problem, you need a step-by-step plan to actually overcome. Yeah? So then we spoke about allowing yourself to receive help, because it's such a common thing. We are human beings, we're social people, and we need interaction. We need to allow ourselves to be inspired by other people, to be helped by other people, to allow each other to lean on each other, to be able to actually lean on someone's shoulder or let someone take you by the hand, someone that's been through it all before. It's really important that we allow ourselves to receive help and not go through all of this together. You can go through all of this together, but it probably will have to be, it will probably be a very slow journey and something that you will not really ever really overcome because you will have your own perspective on it. Let me see. Anna, I have to bring my book to write it down. Yes, absolutely. Feel free to take your notebook, write down anything that you want. And when you join the webinar, I would recommend. But I also have worksheets for you. For those that have been working with me for a long time, you know, I love worksheets. So you can just bring your worksheets that I will send to your email as well. All right. So that's about allowing yourself to receive help and the fear that you are experiencing. So to summarize quickly, it could be a fear of change, of loneliness, failure, rejections, uncertainty, something bad happening, being judged, getting hurt, inadequacy, so your skills and your knowledge, and loss of freedom. Alright, so these are the skills that you could be experiencing, and I think especially as a yoga teacher, I also believe there is fear of regret and fear of success. So think about this for yourself. Sit with this for the next week. Think about the things that you might experience and how you can turn these fears into opportunities. How can you create more positive thoughts, more positive ideas around them, and actually think about what you need to do to overcome them, and stop preventing all these thoughts and beliefs and negative emotions take over all the time. Yeah. So if you're interested in working on well, it's actually personal development. If you're working on your personal development with me next week, join the webinar, Defeat Your Yoga Teacher Imposter Syndrome. It's on the 3rd of November at 3 p.m. CEST. Sorry, it's not at 3, it's at 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. CEST. If you can't make it live, I still recommend to register because you will be sent a recording of the chat to your email, so you can catch up on it whenever time allows for you. You will get worksheets, but like Anna said, if you want to bring a notebook, it's always useful to write down the things that come to your mind, not only to revise after, but also to reflect on it for yourself, to see what thoughts and emotions come up. And understand yourself better, and practice Vajrayas, practice your self-study. Alright, so I would love to see you there. The link is in my bio. You can sign up through the link in my bio on Instagram. It's in the description on Facebook. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm using all of these episodes for the podcast as well. If you're listening to there, you will find the link in the description of the show notes. Does anyone have any questions about today's chat? Anything that you would like to know more about, or that you think, actually, I'm not too sure what she meant with that? Let me just see if we have any comments on Facebook. Any questions, any things that you would like to share? Where are we? I can't find the video. Alright. Anyone on Instagram that has any questions or things they would like to comment on? Oh no! I just found out there is no sound on Facebook. I'm going to... Hello, how are you doing, lovely? I'm going to upload the video to the Instagram video to Facebook. That's such a shame. I can't believe it. Well, that's alright. Practice and acceptance. That's alright, we'll just post it there. Okay. Alright. I don't see any questions here on Instagram either. So, if you do have questions later on, just send them to me on Instagram, on Facebook, or my email, annie@engaunite.com. and I hope to see all of you for the webinar next week. You can find the link in my bio, like I said. And I really hope that we can find the tools for you specifically to finally overcome this imposter syndrome and really make 2021 a good year, so end it on a good note, and also start 2022 feeling really motivated and ready to take action. So I hope to see all of you there. Have a great rest of your day. Hope to see you next week for the webinar. And sending you all lots of love. Speak soon.